guys, so today I'll be showing off the Space Fish deck profile, right? The Goatees. So in this build specifically, this will be the variant I'm currently playing, which I would believe is probably the most consistent in terms of what it provides. Follow up on turn 1 and so on, right? Going for game and all that. They're all the variants you could play, but this one I believe is currently the most coherent in terms of what it does. Mutant Goatee doesn't really provide much follow up. Pure doesn't really give high enough ceiling. Colon Conf is inconsistent and it's weak to hand traps and etc. Right? So this is what I think is the currently the best version of the deck, and this would be to not only to teach the fish to synchro summon, but invite their XYZ brethren to come and assist you, right? So let's go ahead and go into it, because basically what happens is fish XYZ cannot end games. They have a hard time doing that. Synchro fish have a hard time making a strong board, right? So basically they complement each other, where the Goatee cards like Deep Beyond here and such, right, provide you with this in the game, and the XYZ part of the deck provides you the way to go ahead and basically stand up to your opponent, set up a board, and have them try to play through it. If they can't, they lose. So that's basically the theory behind the deck. So finally these decks have come together as one to unite and crush the meta, right? So let's go ahead and start off with this profile by saying that this deck list did top a great event. It was a fun event, and funnily enough, what is crazy about it is that this deck does not inherently have any bad matchups. It beats almost anything, right? Some decks are better than some. For example, your best matchup is like Runic Sprite and Tier for obvious reasons, and your worst matchup, which is not basically a losing game, is like Flunder or Spell and Trap decks. For Spell and Trap decks, if you go first, you're winning the game. For if you're going second, it might be a little harder, but so yeah, it's flexible in that way where it does not outright lose to anything currently, right? Which is what I like about it. So firstly, let's start with our Synchro engine, our Goatee engine, right? So we would synchro on the opponent's turn and XYZ on our turn. That's basically how it works, right? So firstly, we go ahead with 3 copies of Pacey's, right? The best girl, 2 copies of Shift here, and then 2 copies of Zep, right? Which could have been the best card in the archetype in the main deck, but kind of made other ideas. We'd also have 2 copies of Igjeep and 2 copies of Sinopius. So these are synchro summon in the opponent's turn. These come back in the standby. This comes back and is unsummon. These are only doing their main phase. You can trigger them when you'd like. This can go ahead and banish 2 fish from your hand and or graveyard to summon itself. Target a card on the field. It banishes when it leaves the field. It's not immediately banished. Persons might think that's a weird interaction. Why not banish it now? Because that's actually great. So basically it can either be a hand trap, or it can be a way to recur itself, because if it's banished, you can add it back to your hand by banishing a fish monster, right? So it can be an endless resource you could always loot, because these are always going to come back and you can always loot them. This special summons itself by when a fish monster is banished, special summon it. It's like Recap Primula in that regard. So yeah, even if it wasn't in hand, but you banished a card for a cost and someone added it, you'd be able to special summon it, right? This and this can be powerful hand traps in terms of what they do, which we'll get into shortly, I guess you could say, because this can banish on your opponent's turn, can banish these 2. Special summons itself. Let's say they have a card you want to be banished, you can target that and then special summon one of your boss monsters from the extra deck to get rid of it. Or if you want to work the board, you can use it to chain block, right? So this can be a hand trap in so many ways. You can play 3, probably bricks, hence why I don't play 3. 2 is enough in my opinion, right? So then that would be the Goatee Synchro Summon engine. Helps you pros games and supplements your XYZ engine in terms of little interruptions and so on. So now we actually go on to the XYZ engine, which, you know, as I said, is what we're trying to go and set up turn 1 for the Goatee engine to come in and end the game. So we'd have 3 copies of Abyss Shark. Really need to see this. 3 copies of Bossa, right? 1 card XYZ. It's pretty self-explanatory. And the cards that Abyss is searching, which would be these guys right here. Realistically speaking, you'd only play one of this. I only played multiple because I was missing a card, so I just threw it in there to make the, you know, I didn't have to, but for some reason I just did. I'm not really sure why, because this does nothing by itself, but in tandem with this, right, or this card is probably winning the game, right? So yeah, we could play one. We played this because so many times in testing and so on have I drawn like a pace, like a shift in hand, and I need to get rid of it, and I don't have, you know, the field spell. I would just discard it, such as summon this, banish this for whatever comes back in the standby phase. You make your Archetype's best card, right? So that is why we play the white Stingray. It's actually pretty good in that regard. Also something to note that none of these actually activate the summon, right? They're all inherent. You know, you detach 2 for this, you know, special summon 2 fish monsters and make insane plays. This locks you into water, this locks you into XYZs. This can make a number monster you control do double damage, right? Never really comes up, but when it does, because, you know, you'll be detaching the monsters from it anyway, so it won't be XYZ material half of the time. So in a generic fish support, that would be our lifeless leaf and tuneful, right? Can't wait for this ultra to get the ultra, but this is just extra copies of all your good cards, you know, lifeless, your tuners, your bossa, right? So basically this card is phenomenal. I need to get back another ultra. What this does is when it's upon summon, the summon, doesn't matter how, it dumps a fish monster. So you can tutor into any needed fish monster into the grave, which, you know, has another card to synergize with, and it also recurs your fish. So over a grindy state, you can go ahead and banish itself on pot of average, or I guess you could say infinite track trencher tunneler, I should say, to make, you know, to recur fish cards, right, and draw a card for free, which is just amazing, right? I really wish we so in terms of fish cards, I hope that this deck can get a decent, like, let's say level 4 tuner is what I'm really hoping for, because right now there's only one in game, and the one in game is terrible. It's hard to get, which is Swamp Eel. It's just a fish tuner body that locks you into tuning with only water monsters. Why? I don't know. So basically, I'm hoping that we can get a fish tuner level 4 that is either like a Altergeist multi-faker, like it can special summon itself from hand by banishing a fish monster from deck or something, I don't know, and then tutors into an X fish for immediate synchro plays on our turn. That would be golden, you know, pretty much golden. So hand traps, triple ash, double nib, hence why I was playing the double remora. I could not find my third copy of nib. Nib in this deck, I genuinely think does not get enough appreciation because of what it provides. I mean, you're already wiping your board, right? And if they're still playing, you nib them. Or if you have a board already set up but they're still going and you didn't wipe the board, you can just nib it, because you'll be gaining back so much advantage the way the deck is designed anyway. So by the time that the turn is over, you're going to be killing the next turn, guaranteed, right? Ash is Ash. We all know what everybody's dead lolly does, you know. No adding for you. I know I didn't catch the adding cards from your deck to your hand, you know, so on and so forth. Spells and traps. So in terms of consistency cards, we play 2 copies of Maria of Avarice, 2 copies of Desires, right? I need more cards, Captain. I need more power. So basically, this card is hilarious, not gonna lie. It has the Avarice artwork in it. I did not notice that. Basically, it banishes a water boy, as I like to call it, you know. Shouts out Adam Sandler. It banishes a fish, aqua, or sea serpent to draw 2 cards. You know, Desires is Desires. This card is crazy. So many times these cards took my hand from being mediocre to being just an FTK. You could take out this, because I know most people don't like Avarice because it, you know, banishes your deck. But you could take out any 2 of these or so as you see fit to put in Foolish Burial Goods, because Goods does synergize with your deck, with a card that you play, and it can allow you to just search the cards you want to search, right? Because you can dump Ice Barrier to search Snopius, or to search your Abyss Shark as you see fit to make plays. So yeah, 4 consistency cards, they did actually help a lot. So we're going to go ahead and go into our utility cards, right? Which would be this amazing card, I must tell you. 3 copies of White Mirror and 3 copies of Dark Ruler, and a card you have to play, TTDDD, which would be the most distant, deepest depths, right? So, Dark Ruler, I kind of wanted it to be Imperm in the first conception of the deck, right? But, as I thought it would, oftentimes it being Dark Ruler is what won me the game, because I went up against like a lot of combo decks like DDD, who made just so much cards, like, you know, so much things were happening that Imperm would have not have been enough to really stop them. I guess you could say Imperm could have like stopped a Kepler, but what if they have follow up? You're just going to lose, right? So this and a Zeus, GG's. This crazy card now, it fits the deck so well. In a grind game, you can just, you know, forever loop and just outgrind your opponent. So basically, you can banish a fish at a Goatee card. It cannot be destroyed, or banish when you control a fish Synchro. If it's in the grave, you can go ahead and banish a fish monster when a fish is summoned to add it back to your hand. It's like Babel, I guess you could say. Hence why I say there is some level of merit to playing Foolish Burial Goods, right? I can honestly, you know, see why that could be justified, right? So yeah, that's currently, you know, that's currently something I guess you could say, because of, you know, how it works. White Mirror, like Monster Reborn, Rota, why not both? Because this card special summons level 4 or lower, and then adds 1 to the same name, so you can special summon Lifeless. Because of this card, this and Bossa just become insane, right? So you can search white, you can search your the Lifeless and add a Lifeless for follow up. So it's extension and follow up wrapped up neatly in a green card. So yes, I'm not playing it chops. I lied. I did not show it was not a split on chop. It was only chops. You're fooled. Moving on to the extra deck, we're going to go ahead and start with our level 10s Synchros. We have 2 copies of The Deep Beyond. Right. We have 1 Chen Ying. This is a Goatee card. You cannot convince me otherwise. Stop talking. We have the Ruddy Rose Dragon. Didn't come up much. When it did, it was nice. So basically, this alone can make this become like 8k. This can become like 10k, because we're taking everything from your graveyard. Your graveyard must go. We did not agree for you to have a graveyard, right? And it also protects you from destruction by tributing itself. So if they, you know, try to break your board, you can just say nope, you know, tribute it, and then get the activation, and then continue on with your day. This wipes the board. It's like 0 Boros. You know, it comes back in the standby phase, and it gains attack for banished monsters. Really wish it said cards, but probably that would have been a bit too strong. I'm not sure. Notice that this card is not once per turn, so I'm not sure if it's the case where maybe in the future Konami is going to make a way for us to summon this twice in the opponent's turn. If they do, that would be insane. This deck could just become tier at that point in time, right? So yeah, that would be our level 10s. Our level 8s, we are going to go ahead and start off with Whale, Moby Dick, Dragite, and Ascan, right? The flying fish. So basically, this card is severely underrated, I believe, because of what it does. You have to know how to, like, really, I guess you could say, play mind games with your opponent using this card, because for one, if they're aware of it, like let's say game 2, game 3, they're going to go ahead and summon their cards in defense, right? If they're going second or first or whatever. So if they're going second, they're going to worry about this because this can just pop their field, preventing them from going for game. But if they summon their monsters in defense to play around this, then they're still going to be allowing me to play because they cannot OTK. And this deck's turn 3 is crazy because of a card I'm going to show, right? The card that makes this deck playable in the first place. So if they play around it in terms of making their monsters defense, well, whoop-de-doo Basil, I'm going to OTK you next turn anyway, because this does piercing damage. So many times they've summoned, like a runic player would summon their monster in defense, like the one that has zero attack or zero defense, and I'd say okay, pierce, game. So yeah, this card is underrated. If it's destroyed by whatever card effect, not once per turn by the way, banish your cards that want to be banished, so synergy, and bring itself back for free to threaten the board again. Dragite is Dragite, it's one of the better level 8s that we can play in terms of what a water monster is, right? I did resolve the effective bonus with Nib, kinda funny, right? Ascan is spot removal. Let's say you're playing like tier and you don't want to go ahead and give them card advantage, have them fuse something because this is going to trigger their effects. You can just summon this and banish like a kit or so. Or if you're playing like Sprite Runic or so, you can just special summon it, target itself or a fish, and that card, and then banish it. When it's banished, you can go ahead and banish another fish monster from the graveyard and bring it back, which will help you climb up into your your Synchro 10s on the following turn, right? Which is just crazy. So yeah, these are the Synchro 8s. So now onto the card that makes the XYZ and the Synchro coexist in the same barrier reef. 2 copies of Orientos. This card is crazy. I honestly sometimes wonder if the TCG actually came up with this card on their own because it's that good. It banishes a fish from your deck, so you can banish like a Snowpiercer and then add Snowpiercer to your hand by its own effect. Or you can banish a little one that you need currently, or set up for next turn, right? And then it has an effect that if it's used for Synchro material, you can go ahead and target one fish monster, including itself, and you can banish it or whatever you target to add a fish monster with the same or lower level, which is just crazy because let's say you already have Snowpiercer in rotation, you can add a Bishark, which is just a +1 to help you go for game next turn. It's so easy. And in tandem with a next card replay, you can be getting both these cards for free, which is just going to just drown out the opponent, right? And the reason why I say, and this is the reason why I say that Nibiru in our deck is just free, because if you have a full board of like, let's say, Ascan and your entire board is set up, and you activate Nibiru, and you're going another day, you can activate Snowpiercer to push Ascan and your other smaller Goatees into the banish zone to special summon itself, activate Ascan to bring back itself, and then in the following turn your small Goatees are going to come back, so you nib them, they have nothing, but you're getting back your board. Hence why I say that nib probably is kinda crazy in this deck, right? Worth maining, I assume, because all your cards, just like Deep Beyond, are going to come back to threaten your opponent. So that is the Synchro engine, right? And also a funny thing is, you can always use this and this to chain block your cards. You can chain block your Deep Beyond, you can chain block your Ascon, you can chain block your White Whale, right? And as I said, even if you nibbed, just because of this card and Toad, you'll be getting so much advantage, it doesn't matter in the slightest. So then we have the Xyz part of the deck, right? The part we make going first. We have one Dweller. Dweller is crazy. Come on, I mean, watch the tier player cry, right? And it's effective boost monster to go for game. We have a Kraken and the Wombo combo, Toad Shark. And for generic Xyz cards, we have like the Beedrill, and we have a Zeusy Boy, right? Your field must go. So basically, we normally overlay this to help with Xyz Remora, but the funny thing is, I basically practice not to do this, because oftentimes I don't want to do that anyway, because it's not the best. I try to keep it into water as much as possible for basically practice reasons, so I might cut this card, right? But this and this, right, because this turns all monsters on the field into water, and then pops a water monster and burns you for half the attack. This can make this water, and this can boost this by 500, making it 3k, and this does piercing if we go for game. So you can see like the synergy between the cards, right? So there is synergy there. So yeah, Dweller once made me make a 4k Moby, because this was giving it 500 and Shift was giving it 500, and that was just funny. So yeah, that is the Xyz engine. So this is what you'll most likely be ending on most of the time, with a banish, a field wipe, and insane follow-up, because if you have Snowpiercer in graveyard, Toad is adding it back, and Orientos is adding you Abyss Shark. If you have Abyss Shark in grave, then Toad is adding you Abyss Shark, and Orientos is adding you Snowpiercer to just have insane follow-up, to just go for the game and go for the jugular, and watch your opponent die inside, losing to a fish deck. And the one utility card that does come up is Abyss Shark. This card does come up. I would not recommend skimming out on it. You will be punished, right? This card helped me beat the DDD player by outing contract. This card going first, let's say you have like this. No, let's say you have like the worst possible, let's say you have like a Shift that does nothing, right? A Shift and an Abyss Shark. You can normal summon this, special summon this. You can add your Bossa, make this, and then go ahead to, make your Bossa Shark, then Bossa Shark to go ahead and, make an Xyz, and then banish Shift by targeting this, and then have this on your next turn, and so on and so forth, right? So that is the extra deck. So yeah, so as you can see, this is what I mean by all these cards are finally coherent in terms of what they do, right? Like I said, I'll show you some choices I'm probably changing in the near future, right, in terms of the next event and so on. Side deck, we have the removal, for back row decks. Didn't really face much back row decks, hence why I told myself I'm not going to play it much, which was smart, because I don't think I played a single trap heavy deck, to be quite frank with you. These cards, I slept on these two cards in general. I didn't like them at first, but Bestials, right? I only have Soranor currently. I like to call him Sauron. I will probably be investing in the actual engine. I slept on it. I will not be doing so again. This card owed me so much games by being a level 6 body to go ahead and pair up with your level 2 tuners to make Ascon or so on, right? To help you go into your boss monster. And the next card, of which will be probably the best in the upcoming format, if you better be caught with him without him. Shift these nuts, right? 3 copies. We play a bunch deck, right? We don't really care of what you're doing. So if we turn 0, we activate Shifter, and we activate Snowpiercer, and we have Zep in hand. Turn 0, we can make the white aura wheel and banish your field. Right, if you're playing tier, Cry Me a River, right, for example. So, and if we're going second, we can just make, if we can't make Dweller, we can just make two Kragans or 2 pops and just activate this, so we won't trigger tiers. But yeah, stepped on this, I'm adding more. This is just the, you know, of course it's shifter, can't really complain about that. It won me a lot of games. I actually prefer to activate shifter when my opponent is doing their what you call it, the wombo combo between Mary, Scream, and Kit Kalos, because when they do that and say mill 11, I say sure, activate shifter, and they mill 11 for nothing. I love to see it. I love watching them die inside every single time I do it. And then what that does is it allows me to have a big Beyond and a big Cheng Ying. So sometimes I rather do that than just activating shifter, because if I do that, it's better than them skipping their turn in most cases, right? So that's something to think about when you're playing the deck. Instead of just activating shifter because you want them to end their turn, think about actually having, you know, a better setup for yourself. So if they have a couple cards in graveyard, sure, no problem. But think about the long run, right? 2 copies of this guy, you know, skip a turn is what it is. 3 copies of Goes In. I see people playing multiple copies of Rivalry, not Goes In. I think that is wrong, because Goes In and Kragen is better than Rivalry, because you don't want to lock yourself out of your powerful extra deck monsters like, you know, Kragen himself and Cheng Ying. So, you know, just lock them under this and watch them cry, because pure sharks cannot really capitalize off of this. But like I said before, because of the way the deck works, because of Toad and Orientos, you're gaining so much advantage over the turn that you stunning them for this turn, you will probably win the game next turn, because, you know, you're able to go ahead and actually capitalize off the turn, right? So yeah, that's why I rather Goes In than actually playing Rivalry. You know, you set your hand traps, I guess, going first or so. And 1 Cowboy, which it did indeed come up. You're probably wondering why I play Cowboy while I'm playing this. Is because this is dependent on your opponent having a monster, and oftentimes, you know, time will be called in your turn, so you can't really use this. So just to be safe, I played this, which it did give me a draw and a win. So it did come up. I won't say it didn't, so it was great. So that is the deck, right? 43 card main and so on. The extra deck, as like I said, there are some changes I'm going to go ahead and make. For example, I could show you some of them now, I guess. So basically, I would definitely consider adding another Ascan, right? Ascan at 1 does work because we can always recycle it with our lifeless leaf fish, right? But the problem with that is oftentimes we would rather be banishing our resources with our Snowpios to push game state, right? So we can't really put it back. So we, you know, go ahead and banish it. This comes back. But we want to banish a card. So what we do, what I'm considering is just, you know, playing another one basically, and cutting probably the B drill, right? Cutting the B drill and such, and what else? Cutting the B drill and probably one of the Beyonds, because I also want to play another Kragen spawn. Kraken I should say, because it's not once per turn, it's not hard once per turn, so you can pop twice, burn twice, and also it comes up every single match. Needing the Kraken came up every single match. Like, so many times this card, if I had 2, could have won me the game by just popping a massive Nibiru token and just slamming him in the face with like you know, chaining for game so easily. I'm also considering adding a copy of Crystal Shark, because this is a free resource. You can dump it with Crystal. You can dump it with Lifeless. You can search it with Abyss, or you can summon it with You can also summon it with Buzz, or you can search it with Orientos. So it is a free resource, and it's not really that bad, because turn one you can help it to, with your Xyz plays. It also helps you go for game, I guess, because you can this can make you target your opponent's monster, they lose attack, beat over, etc, etc. But keep in mind, this does lock you into Xyz, so I only would use it as a last resource, as a last ditch effort, but it can be used, and I'm thinking about looking into it as a option. I would consider playing a Swamp Eel, but like I said, that card is hard to get. Maybe I'll try to get one until we can get a decent level 4 tuner fish monster, right? But that was the deck. Like I said, the deck basically was flowing like a well-oiled machine, because to be quite honest with you, I should not really have lost a single game. Because the reason why I say this is not to say I'm conceited, because oftentimes I'm not. The reason why I didn't lose any games, the reason why I drawed, was because of some small details that were completely my fault. It was never the deck's fault. The deck gave me every opportunity to finish every game and win every game. I just either tossed it by doing something silly, or basically overlooked what I could have done. So this deck has great potential, right? Genuinely speaking, I really do believe that this deck, if Konami just would go ahead and allow us to, could be quite the powerhouse of a deck for what it does, right? And I would recommend anybody playing Goatee to test out this variant, because it does appear to be one of the better variants currently available. So with that being said, thanks for watching the profile. Keep safe, be good people.